الشيطان الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته وتموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا وتالله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا ولو كنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون ولا تكونوا كالذين تفرقوا واختلفوا من بعد ما جاءهم البينات وأولئك لهم عذاب عظيم صدق الله العلي العظيم.
O you who have believed, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except as Muslims in submission to Him. And hold firmly to the rope of Allah all together, and do not become divided of Allah upon you when you were enemies, and He brought your hearts together, and you became, by His favor, brothers. And you were on the edge of a pit of the fire, and He saved you from it. Thus does Allah make clear to you His verses, that you may be guided. And let there be arising from you a nation inviting to all that is good, enjoining what is right and forbidding what is wrong, and those will be the successful. Do not be like the ones who became divided and differed after the clear proofs had come to them, and those will have a great punishment.
Those are just two of us here who don't speak Arabic. When I opened up and said Assalamu alaikum, that just translates to peace be upon you all. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, peaceful, and exciting evening. It would not have been possible without the many volunteers and organizers who've worked tirelessly behind the scenes. And among them is this year's dinner chair, Ghazala Rahman. She's been with numerous setbacks and hardships. I also just found out she has family members who lost their home in the California fires, and yet she's still persisted. She's still here with us tonight. Ghazala Rahman is an IT professional. She's the proud mother of Adil. She volunteers time with organizations such as CIOGC, Glory of Hyderabad, Islamic Center of Naperville, and ISNA. She's been part of the CIOGC annual dinner event for the last several years, and I'd like to welcome Sister Ghazala to the stage.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the 26th annual CIO. I am so very excited to see all of you here, especially with the weather out there. So I was worried the tables would be empty and we would be speaking to an empty. Awesome. Thank you so much. So in the past, we have acknowledged the work that the dinner committee does at the end of the dinner. And what I have noticed is the room is half empty and no one is aware of what goes on behind the scenes. As of the last 5 months working on this event, and as you can imagine with an event of this size, we do need 5 months and we're still running at the last minute. So we wanted to make sure you have an entertaining, educational, and an enjoyable event. We recognize that this event is a one-year event where a lot of you come together once a year to meet old families, old friends that you haven't met the whole year round, so that you will be talking and enjoying each other's company. But we would like you to hold that during the dinner time as well as the earlier social hour that we had for your enjoyment. With that in mind, we do request that when there is a speaker on stage, you give them your time and attention. They have spent quite a lot of time preparing the material for your review so that you find it informational. So we're humbly requesting that you please pay attention to the stage whenever there is a person speaking. Illinois Senator Dick Durbin, who has attended this event in the past, has said, Muslims are represented by a wide variety of ethnicities, races, and cultures. And the Council does a great job of bringing these extraordinary communities to engage and work with the interfaith community, as well as promoting youth development, civic engagement, and community service. The diversity in this room that I see is a testament to this comment and indicates the hard work CIOGC has been doing for the last 26 years. Our theme for this year's dinner, Unity with Enduring Values, is our response to the current state of our nation and the erosion of enduring values. As an umbrella organization of over 60 members, CIOGC leads our community in safety. This is the reason of existence for CIOGC and where we need your support. I want to personally thank the annual dinner committee, which includes community volunteers, CIOGC board members, and staff, without whom this event would not have been possible. I also want to take the time to thank Mariam and Dr. Al-Sayed for taking time out of their busy schedules to be here. I'm also grateful to all of you, our generous donors, member organizations, interfaith and civic partners, and sponsors for the commitment to empower the Muslim American community under the leadership of CIOGC. As our community grows, and our challenges increase, and umbrella organizations such as CIOGC is crucial so that we can unite your voice with enduring values. Lastly but not least, I want to thank Allah, and I need to thank my loving husband, Aziz, for his support during this time, as well as my parents and family for their unwavering support. Please enjoy the event. Thank you for your attention.
Exciting news for you guys. Are you ready for this? There are tickets being auctioned off tonight to the highest bidder. The first one is a 2-night, 3-day wilderness getaway, courtesy of Montour. The second one is an Umrah trip for 2 from Dar Iman Travel. I'll remind you guys about this throughout the evening, but just keep that in mind. Some great prizes to jump on for the highest bidder. Now, before we head into the eating and socializing portion of the program, we would like to honor some special guests. They are inspiring not only for their personal achievements, but in the achievements they've made through their volunteer work and giving back to the community. To introduce the awardees tonight, we have with us Dr. Bassam Osman, Chair of CIOGC. Dr. Osman is one of the co-founders of the organization. He's actively been involved with it and is its partner organizations for the last 20 years. He is also chair of Allied Assets Advisors, president of Sanam Financial, and a member of Islam Shura. So the first awardee tonight, it goes to the Lifetime Achiever Award. And it goes out in loving memory to Dr. Bambari Shakur Abdullah, founder of the Leadership Development Institute. Dr. Shakur Abdullah Dr. Shakur Abdullah was the first African-American woman to earn a PhD in public health from the University of Illinois She worked as an adjunct psychology and sociology professor in city colleges and universities, and wrote numerous articles in peer-reviewed journals on issues related to African American public health and well-being. She served as executive director of the Leadership Development Institute, a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the quality of life for inner-city African American youth and their families to develop self-sufficiency. Dr. Shakur Abdullah also developed the DREAMS program that focused on the personal development of youth through life skills training and career development. She authored numerous resolutions in the Illinois House and Senate, including one that passed unanimously that used a public health approach to faith-based violence prevention and the religious garb bill, and was instrumental in the passage of legislation that created a council intended to provide the governor of Illinois with the concerns and insights of Muslim leaders in Illinois. She served on the board of directors for CIOGC and has left a legacy of service to Muslim and marginalized communities, including her work on several initiatives on violence intervention. And now we'd like to invite her family to accept the award on her behalf, presented by Dr. Bassett.
When I was reflecting on this award, which I'm really honored to receive it, and frankly I don't believe that I deserve it. Every person in this hall deserves it much more than me. There are institutions who built institutions in this community. In the past 30 years, 25 years, they work day and night, relentless in their effort, and they do not ask for credit. And they deserve these awards more than me or anyone else. These are the silent soldiers of our community. One of them, his name was Abdel Nasser al-Bindawi. God bless his soul. He's an Algerian, my neighbor, in the Mosque Foundation, who invited me one day to volunteer in the Mosque Foundation Traffic Committee 25 years ago or so. So I was at that University of Illinois in Chicago, and at night I was directing traffic in the parking lot of the Mosque Foundation. And it's very hectic, especially in Ramadan, where everyone wants to rush to be in the first line. And in the night, as you imagine in Chicago, it's very cold. So that was my start in volunteering. And throughout the last 25 years or so, I witnessed, as you've witnessed, the tribulations that affected our community. From 9/11, the assault on civil war, on civil rights of the Muslim community, the Ground Zero Mosque, the Quran burning, and we made an effort in the Mosque Foundation to open up and build bridges with our community. We opened up to our faith partners in the Muslim, in the Christian, and the Jewish communities. Interfaith is one of the core components of every institution, especially CIOGC. When I became the chairman of the CIOGC, we made an effort to open up to our legislators, and we started Illinois Muslim Action Day. And I'm happy that we continue to have Muslim Action Day until now. And this is an effort that the Muslim, which is unique to Illinois. This is the only state in the nation that we have young and old Muslims with all of their diversity going to our capital once a year for common good, which is the essence of our religion, the essence of every religion. And after because of the crisis of Syria that affected most of us, especially in the Syrian community, I focused in the last 5 years or so on the crisis in Syria with my colleagues. We sent medical missions, we sent medical missions to help the refugees in Lebanon, in Turkey, in Jordan, inside Syria. I remember one day going in a mission from Turkey to Aleppo a couple of years ago with a colleague of mine whose name is John Kaler. He's a physician pediatrician from Chicago. And the road to Aleppo was very dangerous. It was under heavy bombardment. There were snipers on both days. And I remember at that time thinking, what am I doing there? What am I doing there? Is my attention is pure? Is my attention is to help the people of Aleppo, the children of Aleppo who are under bombardment? Or is it because I wanted to have recognition for awards like this? And this is the most important thing I think that we have to reflect on every day. Are we doing what we are doing because we want to be recognized, because we want to be leaders, or because we want to serve? And I can tell you that this is the thing that we face every night. When I go to bed, you are yourself, and between yourself, you are the only one who understands whether you are doing it for the sake of God Almighty or you do motives. And it's very difficult. And I believe that one day when you are facing your Creator in the day of judgment, He will ask you, what have you done? And then you have to have the right answer for it. I'm really grateful for the friends and the brothers and sisters in this community who stood with us, with the Syrian community, with the Muslim community, during the tribulation of the last year. It's becoming more difficult, as you know, because of what's happening in DC. And we have to overcome together. We shall overcome together. I'm grateful for my family, for my wife and children who stood with me, and grateful for the community that I believe that it is the reason that we are living every day and breathing every day and waking up every day excited because of this diverse and beautiful community. I would like to recognize two members of the community who were new additions to Chicago, Dr. Firaz Jawish and Mr. Samir Al-Omar and their family, who came from Syria just a year ago as newcomers to Chicago. Let's welcome them to the community of Chicago. Thank you very much for recognizing me and for recognizing the other guests who deserve much more than me, especially Sister Bombardi Shakur, who served with me on the board of the CIOGC, and she was instrumental in us in the Muslim community understanding the challenges that facing all of us. Chicago is a segregated city. Unfortunately, Chicago is a segregated city. And unless we pay attention to people who may not be in our suburban mosque, then it will be very difficult for us to claim that we are the best community that we have created for humanity. Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullah.
Let's give it up again for our achievers this evening who are paving the path to the future. I'd like to recognize Sadia Covert and her husband Ryan on the DuPage County Board thing as well. It's just about time. You'll see the jury staff coming around to pass out your food. And I'm just double checking the time to make sure I'm on time. But while they're doing that, oh man, this is a big, tight grip. Oh, there we go. Gotta get back to weightlifting. So while they're passing around this stuff, I wanted to ask you guys, how many of you have had situations where someone assumes that you're from somewhere else, even though you're just a regular old American that happens to be Muslim? Oh, so you guys have never had stereotypes ever. Wow, that's a first. Well, I'll tell you a little story. Even in my career, I face very interesting situations and stereotypes. Although you would think that journalists would know a lot, right? You'd assume that they know about the world, but I'm going to tell you a little secret. They don't know what they're talking about most of the time. Well, one time I was out covering a story. President Bush was in town, and I was working for a company called the Illinois Radio Network. And a colleague station was doing a live report, and he ended his report by saying, "Troops in Iran." And I turned to him afterwards and I was like, you know, I think he meant to say troops in Iraq. And he turned and was like, "Oh, Miriam, it's all your fault. It's your microphone." My microphone? What does my microphone have to do with that? I was working for Illinois Radio Network and was out covering, walking on the streets, asking them about the weather. And someone asked me, "Do you work for Iranian radio?" Again, I was baffled, like, where is this coming coming from? They were like, it's your microphone. My microphone? I looked at it, and as luck would have it, the call letters on the microphone say IRN. They were just filling in an extra A. I mean, come on, how stereotypical can you get? There was another time when I was on my way to a press conference, and I was in the elevator, and I hear this voice behind me, Allah Akbar. I was like, what? Am I hearing things? There's no way these people know Arabic. Again, Allah Akbar. I turn, and I see this little old white man. Disclaimer, I can make fun of white people because I'm half white. So he starts talking to me real slow, and I was like, do you know what that means? And I'm sure you guys know when people talk real slow, thinking somehow that's going to make you understand them even more. I played right along because I recognized him as an alderman from the city of Chicago that I was about to interview. He didn't know who I was. That's the evil side of me. I couldn't wait to see what happened when I busted out my microphone and interviewed him. Needless to say, I got every interview I asked for after that. I was in the grocery store the other night with my kids, and we were walking around, I'm talking to them, and there's an older white lady. I don't know why, it's white people, okay? White people come up with weird things, what can I say? So she comes up and she's like, oh ma'am, I just wanted to commend you on your English. You speak so well. That's when I busted out my twang. I'm just a little country girl trying to work on my accent so I can sound like you big city folks. She walked away confused. But I like to bring that twang in whenever I need to, you know, if I'm out and about. Mom, should we buy some pie for dessert tonight? It leaves people confused. Wow, she speaks English so well, and she's so southern. Where is she from? But there are times when people just want to tell you, it happens a lot in the Muslim community, people will come up to me and say, you're Egyptian, right? The way you do your hijab is so Egyptian. Biladi, biladi. I'm not Egyptian, but that is the national anthem, guys. Or they'll say, you're Malaysian, your nose looks so Malaysian. Andai pastinya putaku. I just found a video on YouTube and I really liked it. Then there are those who will say, you're Indian. The eyebrows, so Indian. Not Indian, but Bollywood has some great films. I was in a cab the other day. I don't know if anybody knows what cabs are anymore, because you're either an Uber driver or you're riding in the Uber these days. But it's that yellow-looking car with the word taxi on the side. And I got in, and the driver goes, and I was really excited. I was like, I know what that means, but I don't speak the language. Your parents not teach you Urdu, only English? He gave me a whole lecture about how horrible it was that my parents didn't teach me the culture. I didn't even know what to say to that. But I'll tell you something. In the Arab community, it's really hard to fit in, to be brought into the circle. And as I mentioned before, I'm half white. Particularly in the Palestinian community, they want to really put you through a test. So unless you can fold 500 grape leaves a minute, or you can do the devka, you're really not part of the crew. An older gentleman was talking to me and he was like, okay, Mariam, I'm going to tell you, to pass the test, if you want to be in the Arab circle, to pass the test, you have to do the Zaruta. Like Zaruta. I think that qualifies, right? Does that bring me in somehow? Oh man. So, hijabis, ladies who ever put a scarf on your head. I'm gonna ask you a question. Have you ever had a stray hair and someone comes up and they want to fix it for you and they're like, oh, there's a hair there. You're like, ow, don't pull it, it's stuck to my head. Don't be so helpful because you really will make us bald in the end if you keep pulling on those hairs. Well, thank you guys so much. I want you guys to enjoy your dinner and we'll continue the program shortly.
Just moved it, so I tried to straighten it.
Dinner
the Council, the CIOGC, faced in 2017 the new administration, an administration that campaigned saying why Islam hates us. An administration that started its first action by instituting a Muslim travel ban. Now we have to double our civic engagement activities and involvement, and we have, alhamdulillah, done that. We had the first governance candidate forum that is sponsored by Muslims. We had another forum for the congressional district number 6, and we had many other activities. Alhamdulillah, we introduced and succeeded in passing the no registry bill in the state of Illinois. It indicates that the state will not register any community based on religion, ethnic background, and will not cooperate with the federal government for any such activity. As we are embarking on a new era of civic action by establishing a CIOGC Action Network, a 501c4 organization that will enhance our advocacy and legislative agenda and extend our political and the community political outreach. We can and will engage in those candidates, and we are also able to raise funds for candidates. You will have more information about this and our other civic activities from Sister Alia and Brother Irshad. So, what do we see here now? From slashing healthcare funding to greeting refugees with armed soldiers to unabashed bigotry, discrimination, and racism. This is what is happening now, and we have to confront this with our Muslim values. The Prophet, peace be upon him, our Prophet, says, that society who helps its weak is a society that prospers. A society that helps its weak is a society that prospers. There can be no stability without care for the less fortunate, without combating justice, and without uplifting the weak. The Council also emphasized these values with our civic and religious partners, where we have reinvigorated our interfaith activities and relationships, where both with the leadership and with the laity of our interfaith partners. The Council also enhanced its Chicago activity, not only by collecting funds as before, but we established some best practices and coordination between various Zakat committees of our member organizations. Now we understand some of our communities are still reluctant to open up and engage fully in civic activities. For those reluctant, I'd like to remind them of a story from the time of the Prophet. At the time of the Prophet, there was a siege and boycott period. The non-believers made a siege against the Prophet and his Muslim community. One person that helped end this siege, his name is Al-Mut'im ibn Adam. When the Prophet and the Muslim community was victorious in the day of Badr, there was 72 prisoners of war. The Prophet with the companion discussed what to do with them, and listen to this. The Prophet said, if Al-Mut'im ibn Adi, the person who helped the Muslims in the sea, ending the sea, he said, if this Mut'im ibn Adi was alive, I would deliver these prisoners of war to him if he asked for them. So our Prophet has taught us not only to cooperate and engage with other partners, but he also taught us to recognize them, thank them, and appreciate them. So we are gathered here in this community to renew our commitment and our unity, and for the head, CIOGC has been and will continue, inshallah, to be the leading voice in the Muslim agenda in Illinois. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Before we move on to the next portion, I wanted to recognize some of our VIP guests that are here with us this evening. We have with us Ras Malawati Khalid, the Consul General with the Consulate of Indonesia. Treasurer Yusuf, also with the Consul for Information, Social and Cultural Affairs with the Consulate of Indonesia. Dan Olson, Assistant Director at Medical and Interreligious Affairs. Dr. and Mrs. Salah Usman, Founding Director and former CIOGC Chairman. Mr. and Mrs. Puri Irfan, former CIOGC Chairman. Dr. Zahra and Mrs. Sahul, former CIOGC Chairman. And we're following the card, if that's okay. I'd also like to recognize Dr. Amin McLeod Dean, Professor of Islamic Studies in the Department of Religious Studies at DePaul University. Muhammad Iqbal, the Kane County Board. Dilara Saeed, recent candidate for Illinois State House of Representatives. Bushra Abiwala, recent candidate for Cook County Board of Commissioners. And Hadia Afzal, recent candidate for the Dade County Board of Trustees. Now this next portion delves into what CIOGC is all about. To give us some insight is Abdullah Mitchell. He's an attorney and the executive director of CIOGC. He's also chairperson for the Leadership Development Institute and a board member of Masjid al-Taqwa of Chicago. And for the last 25 years has brought his wealth of expertise to a variety of organizations and nonprofits.
Assalamu alaikum. Before I begin, I need a few people to join me on the stage because I can't do this by myself. With Ali Hussein, Rashad Khan, and Sheikh Hassan Ali, my African American brother. All right. It's good to see a lot of friendly, familiar faces. It makes you feel good inside. And I'm hoping that each of you feel the same way. There's only one problem. There was one person here tonight that initially didn't want to be here. Earlier this week, my wife had a conversation with my son, daughter-in-law, and my granddaughter, Miriam, aged 10. And as they were discussing coming to this dinner tonight, Miriam said, "Grandma, I don't want to go. It's boring. What is there going to be for kids to do? Do I have to? Blah, 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 blah." I share that story because the last words that my wife gave to my granddaughter is, "Well, that's your granddad." All right, so the weight fell back on me. So the question that Miriam asked is a good one. What is that question? The question she asked is, what is CIOGC? What does it do for me? Why should I be here tonight? All right, that's why we're here on the stage right now, to begin to answer those questions for you. The words of our dinner chair, Sister Ghazala Rahman, when she gave earlier that slide, about the overall purpose of mission, to be a unifying force for diverse voices in our community. Well, when I had to answer Miriam's question, and I kind of played this out with her, imaginary, and she said, okay, Granddaddy, what does it do? And I had to say, okay, Miriam, what you have to do is look. It really depends, I said. It depends on who we're talking about. Because CIOGC really serves three distinct functions or roles. It has a relationship with its member organizations. It has a relationship with the Muslim community. And it has a relationship with interfaith partners. Many of you, interfaith partners, civic partners, member organizations, random members of the Muslim community are here tonight. And we are here to outline what is it that we do for you. I'm going to assist me in this process. I have to my immediate right, Sister Alia Hussein, who will cover civic engagement. Urshad Khan, who will also cover another phase that our chair, Dr. Bassam Usman, referred to, that being this thing called a C4, what is it? To why is this important for the Muslim community? And then, when we look at the overall theme of tonight's dinner, unity with enduring values, one of those values that we stress is charity. And Sheikh Hassan Ali will address that from the Zakat Chicago, what that brings to the table. Let me begin then to address a couple quick points before I give you those concrete examples. When I speak about the relationship, let me start first with our member organizations. Our member organizations are our lifeblood. Without them, there is no CIOGC. And if we don't do all that we can to help you be strong, functioning organizations, then we're really failing ourselves. That's why during the past year, we covered and had various workshops that address, one, your capability. When I speak about capability, what we're talking about is legal compliance. Are your rules and everything in order? The other thing we talked about is how are we going to keep this place of worship safe? We've seen instances and just recently in Pittsburgh, Wisconsin, and Texas, where houses of worship have been violated, violence visited upon them, and lives lost. We, as a community, must protect ourselves. And how is that done? Well, we had a workshop that addressed those issues. And the other aspect is, if you're going to be a strong organization, how are you going to fiscally, financially maintain yourself? So there was a workshop directed towards financial sustainability. These are some of the initiatives that the council has put forward to address its member organizations. But at this point, when we start talking about the Muslim community, probably the strongest inroad we've made is in the area of civic engagement. And at this time, I will turn the microphone over to Sister Alia Hussein.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I know I'm standing between you and your dessert, but I hope I can get your attention for the next 5 minutes. I promise it won't be too long, and I promise it won't be too painful. I want to take a quote from our leader, a phrase he commonly uses, which is, I'd like to show you things from my side of the looking glass. Last year, under this political spectrum that we're living in, unheard of, right? The times that we are living in are just surreal. One of my really good friends, Sandra, said, you know, at CIOGC, we would like you to consider becoming civic engagement chair. And I just scratched my head like, why? In this day and age, with everything that's going on, it's just an enormous undertaking. How do you step into this world and do it well and serve the ummah the way you should? And the next thing I find out is you have to fill the shoes that Dr. this room tonight what we've done. So I'm just going to go through a couple of quick slides to cover. Okay. So the first major category of work that we took on was GeoTV. We knew that it was integral for the Muslim community to get involved in the civic realm. Up till this point, there was a lot of work done, but just because we are in the situation that we're in, it's very important to educate all of our community on why it's so important to be a part of the civic process. So we worked for months and months and months, and we came up with a thorough strategy where we launched an elaborate GeoTV campaign with not just those of us that are on the team, but with so many others that came in and shared their thoughts and ideas and visions. We created a website, the first of its kind, specific to the Muslim American community, and it had vital information on it about voter resources. And then this site showcases reasons on why it's imperative for the Muslim community to vote. It's easy to say, go vote, let's everybody vote, but it was really important for us to stress to our community why. And we really struggled to encapsulate those points, but we tried to make sure we could hit as many groups as possible to get that message across. So again, why should we vote? We created these infomercials featuring local leaders. I think you've seen Imam Tariq Hamid, who did a fantastic job talking about gun violence. Sister Suzanne, who's just a trailblazer in the issue of refugees and how she cares for them. SubhanAllah, may Allah reward her for her work. She spoke about immigration and why it was so important for Muslims to be engaged. And now, after tabulating all of the shares and all of the views, that one video was seen by over 100,000 Muslims across the United States of America. We received calls from people as far as Texas, as far as North Carolina, and even California asking, can we share this video? And I responded, of course you can. It's here for the Ummah. It's not here just for Chicago. It's not here just for Illinois. It's for all of you and all of the Muslim community in the country, and alhamdulillah, it's been used well. Can we go one more? Okay. We were also very lucky and fortunate, and we're honored to host the first ever Muslim, we were the first ever Muslim group to host a gubernatorial forum. And it was a fantastic forum at Memphis Center, who provided their facility in a very beautiful fashion, and they did a fantastic job in opening their doors and allowing us to host this event, which was packed. We had fantastic questions answered to the candidates, and when they left, they actually commended the interaction between the Muslim community and them, and we're so happy that this opportunity was available to our community, and we hope to be able to host many more like this. Another forum / meet and greet that we hosted was for the 6th Congressional District. As many of you know, this was a very hotly contested race, the seat that was formerly held by Congressman Peter Rostam. It was watched nationally, and alhamdulillah, with the help of Islamic Foundation, we held a forum, a meet and greet, where every Democratic candidate that was running for that office accepted our invitation and came. Peter Rostam, the Republican, was also invited. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, but they all came, and again, we engaged them at a level that was really just wonderful. Legislation. As was mentioned before by Dr. Sahoud, we did conduct another very successful IMAD trip to Springfield, where we take about 300 to 400 individuals, and we introduce them to the legislative process. They meet with state legislators and leaders to discuss very relevant bills and concerns. We have a Senate Page program, where you have high schoolers come in and learn so much about civic engagement that so many of them leave thinking, this is something I want to do, and that's a mission accomplished. And in conjunction and we are working with all of our partners to make sure our immigrant community has as many rights as possible. Many of you have probably heard about that quote-unquote satirical poem that was posted at the Aurora Public Library, which encouraged the ripping of a hijab off of a Muslim woman. When that happened at the Aurora Public Library, we went. We spoke with them. We spoke with them very civilly and had an amazing experience with them. So much so that they invited us, and we went with our partners at ICN and met with the director of the Aurora Public Library. So they have Muslim contacts. So when something about Muslims is said or shared, Muslims are a part of that decision-making process. So that next time a poem or art or whatever anybody wants to call it is being shared with the community at large, Muslims will be engaged. And of course, one of the most important things we do is community-wide education. And this year we had many, many incidents that we had to focus on, and one of them being the Rohingya crisis. We were honored to have world scholar Dr. Azim Ibrahim come and share his personal experiences about the travesty that's occurring in Myanmar and how many people are suffering and how we can help. Of course, we had the infamous travel ban that we all now know of. We held a seminar and we had lawyers who are immigration experts come in and educate the community on what this travel ban means to them and how to best prepare. As you can see, civic engagement has been alive and well at CIOGC, and whether you've heard about it or not, believe me, we're working for you. And this is just the beginning. With your support and with your du'as, inshallah, this is only the beginning and the best is yet to come. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, we'll come up really quick on the next part of the CIOGC civic engagement. As you know, as Sister Alia mentioned, there are a lot of good efforts that have been put on, but there's still some limitation on our political activism, especially lobbying, advocacy work, and the political engagement. So there's still some issues with the 501c3 that we have. There's limited things that you can do in the political activization. So what that means for us as a civic engagement, after everybody thought and had a charter put together and see what CIOGC can do to address that concern, then a new chapter, CIOGC 4, which is CIOGC Action Network. Even with the C3, as you see on the slide, there's still some issue lobbying you can do, no political engagement that you can have, and there's the issue with the tax exempt. So for that reason, the next step form and endorse the civic engagement next part chapter called CIOGC Action Network. What is that function for CIOGC Action Network? As you all know, in the environment that we're in, we want to have more of the engagement in the lobbying process. We want to participate in a lot of these candidate forums and make sure that we do in the activization form that is collected by political engagement and organization. And that's one of the reasons why we, as a member of CIOGC, HR members, came back and said what CIOGC is doing, and this is why the CIOGC Action Network was formed. What is it in for us as a CIOGC? It will strengthen us as a C4, obviously that's the one step. We get better coordinated corporate cooperation from the HR members, and we will also have a forum for our youth and activization of the CIOGC member organization for the civic activities. One voice representation in Chicagoland and strengthen the CIOGC voice in the political engagement. We will represent HR member and amplify their voices and strengthen the political engagement forum. So that's one of the reasons why we want it. What are the next steps quickly? Obviously all that work is going to be enhanced going forward in terms of advocacy, lobbying, and political activity. We will have one voice as an HR member in the activation. We will engage on the masajid and we will create a grassroots level of political activism and establish local and regional councils. This way we can also endorse the candidates and do the fundraising part of it. As you know, I was just reading the article here on the Voice of America. 2018 is an excellent year for Muslim community. We, on national level, have responded to this need of us being engaged in a political forum. As you know, 55 or plus candidates participated in the election and they were elected. We had a record number of people who went out to vote, our vote, our time. And we have candidates who have office bearers who's supporting the community and the Muslim community. This work needs to continue, this work needs to enhance, and that's why the CIOGC Action Network is going to be working next steps to 2020 is around the corner. 2020 is around the corner. The lessons learned that we have from this year, inshallah, will continue into 2020, and we'll collectively work with the other organizations to enhance the political work that we have started, political engagement we have started, and we need to continue this work. So inshallah, 2020 is around the corner, so we want your support. Inshallah, we will be reaching out to you for your support and your engagement. Are you ready for that? Are you ready, Chicago, for that? Let's get started. Our vote, our time.
Assalamu alaikum. I only have just a few minutes, 2 minutes. Again, my name is Hassan Ali. I'm serving as Imam and Director of Mecca Center, and also I am a member of the CAN Chicago Committee, Brother Masood and many other dedicated people. When Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and this hadith recorded in both Sahih, based on Ibn Abbas narration, when Mu'adh ibn Jabal, as a young Sahabi, to Al-Yemen, he told him that, tell them that God made zakah a right in their money, and they're taken from the rich and to be given to their poor. He didn't say to be taken from the rich and then bring it to Al-Madinah. He said you need to make sure that there is no poor or needy people around you in your local community. And this is our slang for Zakat Chicago. We are working for local collection to do a local distribution. So we collect the Zakat money from Muslim community members in Chicago, in the greater Chicago land, and we distribute the money to the poor and the needy within Chicago land. And when we started this long time ago, 2004, we started with $50,000 budget. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, with the great work of our community members and their trust, we are today collecting $650,000 every year, and we distribute it locally here in Chicago. We know that many of you are giver of zakat for many organizations as a fundraiser. I know that, but there is the right and haq for our people around us here. We cover so many projects here in Chicago land. I don't know why the next slide. So we cover food pantry projects, housing, schools, women's shelters, emergencies, and education, and many other great projects. So please make sure that next time, when you try to calculate your zakat money, and when you write the checks for zakat, make sure that you have a good portion, inshallah ta'ala, for Zakat Chicago. We are here in Chicago in need for about $2 million. And we are getting only $650,000. Inshallah, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help, then your generosity, we will be able to make sure that there is no needy in Chicago land, Muslims or non-Muslims. Jazakumullahu khairan, barakallahu fikum.
The executive director, I don't want to mention his name until he gives me permission, but we will begin to hold regular workshops for our executive directors to improve the operation of our member masjid. So these are some of the initiatives, inshallah, that we'll be planning in the coming year. And one I did forget when we started talking about not only Talif Collective, but even with our interfaith partners. We're doing a religious leaders of metropolitan Chicago, particularly as it relates to gun violence, and what they're asking for each of us is to begin to take this message that we must have responsible gun control in our nation, to make this the subject of footballs in your masjids and spread this message. And one of our interfaith partners, the Archdiocese of Chicago, is also starting this initiative, and inshallah we will be joined in that effort. And their representative here today, Mr. Dan Olson. Give you a hand to Mr. Olson, thank you. Now, my last, kind of sum it up right now, my last time of giving thanks, and I got a good insight on how much work it takes to do this thing, and my brow sweats for what she does. So it is a lot of work, and the amount of sacrifice and time that she's taken to make this evening, we all owe her a debt of gratitude. And please, on behalf of the board, and to accept this small token, thank you, Ms. And you know, all right, one more thing. When I realized that with Sister Ghazal, I got real embarrassed. Why? Because there
are many. He became a household name across the country when he ran for governor of Michigan this year. Dr. Al-Sayed received many endorsements, including Senator Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman-elect Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Dr. Al-Sayed was the youngest person ever appointed as health commissioner in a U.S. city when he worked to rebuild Detroit's health department after it had been privatized during the city's municipal. He holds a doctorate in public health from Oxford University, where he was a Rhodes Scholar, as well as a medical degree from Columbia University. He graduated with highest distinct University of Michigan, where he was student commencement speaker alongside former President Bill Clinton. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Al-Sayed.
That was actually really good. Most of the time we got to do it twice or 3 times. Alhamdulillah, I am deeply honored and grateful to be here with you tonight. I want to say how enthusiastic I am about the future of this community. This is a place that is well ahead of many Muslim communities, not Detroit. In terms of its engagement and its focus, I've had the opportunity to meet and stump with a number of exciting candidates from this community, specifically people like Dalara and Sadia and Bushra and Abdul Nasr. These should be household names in your community. Now they say if you want to cut people off from their future, you should cut them off from their history. And for me, it's always meant remembering what my history is to understand what my and our future ought to be. So I just want to share with you a bit of my own personal history. 1400 years ago, Imam Ali radiallahu anhu, he sent a letter to a man by the name of Malik al-Ashtar. This was a man who he had appointed as general overseeing Egypt. And he told him, you have to understand something in this letter. Understand that all people are either your brothers in faith or your equals in humanity. And we know the history of Egypt. Egypt became a predominantly Muslim country. 90% of Egyptians are Muslim. And about 242 years ago, in a place called Philadelphia, a group came together and said that it was time for them to break the chains of oppression that were being launched across the sea from England. And they came together and they decided that they would found a new country in this place on the ideals that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal. And about 40 years ago, my father immigrated from Egypt to this country. He was the eldest son of the wisest, most intelligent person I have ever met. That was my grandmother, Su'ad. She never got to go to school. She raised her 6 kids of 8 to whom she gave birth in a 1-bedroom apartment overlooking a fish market where my grandfather, who had an 8th grade education, sold vegetables. And he knew that his path had to look different if he wanted a different life for himself and his future. And he took a bet on this America, understanding that this was a place where it shouldn't matter the color of his skin, shouldn't matter how he prayed, shouldn't matter that his name was Muhammad, that he could be just as American as anyone else. And when he came, he met and married my stepmom, Jackie. Her family had been in this country 242 years ago when those people came together and decided that they would found this new country. And I was raised in a house built by Muhammad and Jackie. And we're about a week away from Thanksgiving, and I always smile at Thanksgiving because at our Thanksgiving you've got Muhammad, who leads Salatul Jum'ah at various masajid in Southeast Michigan, and Judy, my grandmother on my stepmother's side, who's a deacon at a Presbyterian church. And most of the time we come together trying to figure out why it is that the Lions always lose on Thanksgiving, usually to your team. And so that is my history. And growing up in that household, one of the things that became very clear to me was that whether I was traveling 8 hours to get back to Egypt to hang out with my grandmother Su'ad, or traveling 20 minutes into downtown Detroit, in either of those time periods, I would travel 10 years difference in life expectancy. And I wanted to do something about that inequity. And that's why I went to medical school. And then I realized during my medical training that one patient at a time wasn't going to address the inequities that were put upon people. The structures of what dictates who gets to have access to a good school, to a grocery store, to a safe neighborhood. And that those things required one to think differently. And I decided to leave a clinical career and I moved into public health. I spent a couple of years as a professor writing about this problem, only to realize that most of the people who were reading what I was writing already agreed with what I had to say. And so I left the ivory tower of Columbia University when I got the opportunity to come home to the city of Detroit and was named health commissioner in that city. I walked into a department that had been shut down when the city was facing bankruptcy and state takeover. 185-year-old health department shut down in a city with a higher infant mortality rate than my father's native Egypt. And I don't know if you caught it, but I told you that my own grandmother had 8 kids that she gave birth to, only got to raise 6 of them. And yet 20 minutes from where I grew up, in a suburb that looks a lot like this one, the infant mortality rate is just as high. They shut down their health department in the city where our babies have 3-fold the probability of being hospitalized for asthma, 4-fold the probability of being exposed to lead than the state average, shut down a 185-year-old health department. And I was hired to rebuild that department, no joke. I walked into a department that had 5 city employees and 85 contractors, and we were in the back of the building where people pay parking tickets. Now I know I look a little bit young, and I was looked a lot younger before I decided to run for governor. So I'm walking in on my first day at work, and I want to look a little bit older, so I've grown out my beard a little bit more. I put on my big boy suit and tie like I did today, and I'm getting in the mindset, you're the commissioner, you're going to commission. Nobody actually tells you what that means, but I'm going to do it. And this guy walks up to me from the right. Hey, you. Yes? You work here? The commission. Yes, sir, I do work here. Fantastic. Can you take my parking ticket for me? I said, sir, I'm the health director. He said, why are you walking to the parking building? I said, that's a really good question. So I got his ticket paid and felt pretty good about myself for about 10 minutes. And then I walked in to realize what it was we needed to do. I'll tell you, for the first 3 weeks on the job, I had no idea where to begin. My job is to provide basic public health goods and services for 700,000 people who have been systematically marginalized and neglected by every level of government intended service. Where do you even start? And on my third week at work, I got to meet a little boy. His name was Demarius. He was 3 years old, the fourth child of a 21-year-old mom. Met his father maybe 4 times in his life because his dad's in jail. And yet this kid, he had this incredible charisma. All of you have met a kid like him before. Most of the time when you meet a 3-year-old, they don't want to look you in the eye, let alone touch you. This boy walked right up to me, gave me a big handshake, a big hug, walked back to his mom. And I sat there flabbergasted. I was like, this kid either has to be the most rational or the most confident 3-year-old I've ever met in my life. But the fact of the matter is that his life circumstances betrayed that confidence every single day. And we set our goal to break down the barriers that kids like Demarius had to being able to learn and earn in Detroit like we would want for any kid anywhere. He taught me more about public health in 10 minutes than I learned in all of my degrees combined. If nothing else, the work of public health and the work of government ought to be about justifying the kind of confidence that any 3-year-old child should have in the life that she or he is going to lead. And so we did things like build a program to guarantee every child a free pair of glasses. Delivered 6,000 pairs of glasses in 2 years alone. Stood up to some of the biggest polluters in the entire state, forced a petroleum refinery to invest $10 million of their own money to reduce their emissions when they had wanted to increase them. And then we heard about Flint. Realized that our kids might be exposed to the same lead we were hearing about in places like their schools. And so we had every school, daycare, and Head Start tested for lead in the water. But Flint was a moment I had to think about. And then a year and a half later, I watched an individual who I don't believe belongs leading a group of ducks get elected president of the United States. Now, I told you about my history. My parents raised me to be proud of both my Muslim and my American identities, that these two identities were not mutually exclusive. In fact, they were mutually inclusive. That as an American, this ought to be a place where everybody really is created equal and we dignify their values as such, but we are so far away from that. And as a Muslim, that I ought to be somebody who does, as the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, that if I were to see injustice, I should seek to change it with my hands. And if I can't change it with my hands, then I should change it with my tongue. And if I can't change it with my tongue, then at least change it in my heart, but know that that's the least of faith. I'll tell you, the first time anybody ever told me to run for any office, who actually knew what they were talking about, it was at my college graduation. And at my graduation, I was privileged to be the valedictorian of my class, and I got to speak alongside President Bill Clinton. Now, the only reason anybody ever went to that commencement, including my own parents, is to hear Bill Clinton speak, not me. But I gave my speech, and Clinton gave his speech. He said some really nice things about me in his speech. I think it's probably the first time my immigrant father clapped for me, which was nice. And then after the speech, I see President Clinton and a group of people, and I didn't want to bother them, man. I'm a good Midwestern boy. So I started to walk out. And I get a tap on my shoulder. Who do you think it is? Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton, he's got this ability to just look through your soul, if you've ever met him. So Bill Clinton grabs my hand, starts looking through my soul, and he asks me a question that I actually just think is unfair for a kid who just graduated college going to medical school, which is, why are you going to medical school? And the answer that came to my mind was, well, because I'm brown and Muslim, that's just what we do. But I didn't say that. I said, Mr. President, I really love people and I love science, and this is how I want to serve. And he said, you know, you've got a gift for communication. Maybe someday you'll run for office. And I just laughed at that point. I said, Mr. President, that's really nice of you to say. Where are my parents not hear that? But that's really nice of you to say. But I don't know if you saw my name. There are 11 letters in my name, and that's just my first name. People like me don't get to run for office. And he didn't even say, no, you knew. He was like, yeah, that's fair. That was 2007. And a year later, I had the privilege of watching a man from this community by the name of Barack Hussein Obama run and win the presidency of the United States of America. And it was the first time I ever saw myself in a president, let alone in a politician. And we may not agree with everything either of those men did, but let's be clear, it was the first time I'd ever seen myself or anybody who looked like me at all in politics. After all, President Obama's father immigrated from Africa. My father immigrated from a different part of Africa. He was raised in a mixed household. I was raised in a mixed household. Everybody thought he was Muslim. I'm actually Muslim. Now, at that moment, 10 years on, I had to ask myself, where are we going and what is this moment in American history calling on us to do? And that was the moment I had to reflect on that conversation with an ex-president when I told him I could not run for office. And that was the moment I also decided to run for office. I had the opportunity to travel for 18 months all over my state of Michigan, a state that had went for Donald Trump by the slimmest of margins, 10,000 votes. I got to meet with people in their own homes and their own VFW halls and their own tap rooms. Got to look them in the eye rather than just read what they wrote on Facebook, and it turns out that they gave me one of the greatest gifts I could ever have asked for. Because part of the reason I decided to run was because I've always believed people are good. Whether it was my grandmother Saad, who raised her 6 kids in a 1-bedroom apartment in Alexandria, or my grandmother Judy, who's the deacon at the Presbyterian Church, who raised her 3 kids in the middle of the state of Michigan, whether it was just the kiss that they give you on the forehead, or when they ask you if you want a little bit more food, the love of a grandmother is the same. It is that core of the empathy that makes us who we are. It is what makes people good. But for a second, I had to reflect and I had to ask myself, if we're so good, how did we elect him as our leader? And what the people of the state of Michigan showed me was that people really are good, even if our politics are not. I want us to reflect for a moment on where we stand as a community. I understand that things have never been more challenging. We look on TV, or as we read on the internet, or even listen on the radio, we hear people with names like ours, faces like ours, stories like ours demonized for nothing but simply being an adherent to a faith. And we watch the President of the United States decide to make a scapegoat out of people of color, out of people who pray a different way, despite the fact that this country was always founded on the idea of a pluribus unum, that out of many there could be one. But when I decided to run, it was not because of the challenges that the Muslim community faced. We are going to be fine. It's because of people like Damaris. It's because I was raised in a household and being taught as a Muslim that my responsibility was to justice, no matter who was the victim of the injustice being perpetrated. And justice in our community cannot just mean just us. It has to be about the broader responsibility of solving challenges that have to do with access to very basic things that most of the people in this room don't have to worry about. Whether or not your kid's going to get shot up on the way to school. Whether or not that kid's school is going to have 50 kids and those kids aren't even going to be able to see the board. Whether or not the water that comes out of their tap is going to poison their brains for the rest of their lives. Whether or not their grandmother, who probably provides their care, is going to even get to a hospital when her heart failure exacerbates yet again. Our responsibility is about the ideals of our faith, not just the identity of our faith. It's the willingness to ask, who is suffering and what can I do about it? Umar radiallahu anhu, who was the second Khalifa, even during his time as Khalifa, every night he would go out and he would provide water and drink for a poor woman who was blind, who had lost her family. And every night he himself would go and do that. And you can imagine he had staff upon staff that could help him. He chose to do that. as we ask ourselves how we answer these big questions that so many of us are asking, let's remember that the answer itself is in what we choose to do, what it is we choose to value. When people see Muslims, because of their faith, standing up to fight injustice, to fight poverty, to fight the lack of education, to fight against the injustices committed to women and girls all over the state, to fight against anybody who would take away the rights for anybody else, when we stand up for those fights, people will stand up for our fights. And what I think is the most beautiful thing to come out of this moment was that we had Muslim Americans standing up to fight, not just for the Muslim American community, but people willing to stand up and fight and say, you know what, I want to solve this problem, big or small. Whether it's the fact that we need a stop sign at this particular stop, or it's the fact that people just don't have health care, we're going to fight for those issues, because as Americans, we belong as part of the fabric, and as Muslims, you cannot and will not take away our rights to fight for our neighbors, because that is what our responsibility is. I want to finish on a note. I ran and I lost. And a lot of folks, when I say that, they're like, no, you won. No, I lost. I'm not governor of the state of Michigan. I set out to accomplish a thing and I did not win. But I do hope that some of the outcome of this is that even though I lost, we won. And when I say we, it's not just our community, but it's anybody who's ever been told that because of how they look or what their name is or how they pray, that they could never aspire to lead in our free and fair society. I lost, but I do believe that for all of us who lost, we all won. Our democracy won. It's not just about our community's singular response to a singular moment. We do this too much. 9/11, and everybody gets real upset about it. What are we going to do? Donald Trump gets elected, and everybody gets real upset. What are we going to do? The bigger question is, how are we going to institutionalize what we do about problems that don't just happen on single days, but that problems that fester in our communities, whether we look at them or we don't, every day. And one of the things about losing is that all of those young people who watched me run, who watched all of us run, they got to see me lose. I think that's a great thing. You know why? Because most of them are growing up in households that don't tolerate failure. That tell them that unless you follow this safe path, and unless you succeed in this very particular way, then you're not actually succeeding. And the reality of the matter is, I want them to see somebody who tried something hard and didn't succeed and got back up. And going to mean changing the way that we as a community think about what is valuable. We tell our kids, you're going to be a doctor or you can do something else. Why? And then at the same time, at the same dinner table, we argue about why our history is being revised, our stories aren't being told. Well, it's because we're not building historians, we're not building journalists. Why nobody's fighting for our rights, we're not building lawyers. Our responsibility, where we see it, is to be a part of solving injustice broadly. And that means empowering our kids to try and maybe to fail, but to get up and try again, to do the work that matters in our society, not just to serve our communities, certainly not just to serve a pocketbook, certainly not just to serve whether or not they might get married before the age of 25, but to serve the challenges that real people face every single day. If your kid has a passion for something, nurture that passion even if they might fail. Because you know what? That failure is going to teach them way more than ever having taken a risk. So I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to be with you tonight. And my ask of this community is that you continue to nurture your young and the young of every other community. All of us do this in different ways. All of us do it in different ways. And all of those ways matter because they reinforce the others. But when kids stand up and say, you know what, I'm going to run for this thing, you say, absolutely. What can I do to help you? Kid stands up and says, I want to be a journalist. You say, absolutely, how can I help you? A young woman stands up and says, I want to be a teacher and I want to go teach in in those communities where they might not even be able to pay my paycheck, absolutely, how can I help? When we stand up against injustice, when we decide that our goals and our intentions are to serve in that way, I'm not worried about the outcome. Because at the end of the day, we believe in that. But we also know that we tie our hands, we do the work. And this community has so much potential. Our community has more potential than we even know. And I look forward to watching that flourish and inshallah walking that path together. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Governor and not a state representative.
Well, to any of the young people who think there's not hope, I just want you to think about this for a second. The Congress of the United States of America will use in the next 2 months to accommodate for the first time somebody who's going to be wearing a head covering, hijab, because we've got not one but 2 Muslim Americans who are about to take office in these United States of America. There's a lot of hope. I'll also say this. I was sitting with my younger brother, and we were trying to play stuff for a while. And we were getting really frustrated because the song wouldn't come on to Spotify. And I laughed for a second because my little brother's about 8 years younger than I am, and I told him, you know, Osama, when we were young, if you wanted to have a song you could regularly listen to, you had to wait until it came on the radio, and then you had to tape record it, and then inevitably your mom would come yelling at you at like minute 1:30, and that would be indelibly part of your song. Our generation sometimes thinks that these things are immediate, that gratification comes like this. That's not the way the world works. Right? You put your shoulder into the work, and you better be ready to put your shoulder into work for the rest of your life. The work doesn't end. And soon enough, you hand it off to somebody else. But the reality of it is the work doesn't end. But there are really, really incredible things down the line. And for me, it was about asking myself, what's my responsibility to the work that I care about doing? I was rebuilding a health department whose funding comes mainly from the federal government. And I asked myself, what is this individual going to do to that funding? What's going to happen the best way that I can serve? And I realized that I had to be about being able to set an agenda that actually valued the lives of children like them and made sure that we were protecting, not just being a part of, just executing. And that's the moment where I realized that the best thing I could be doing in that moment, I felt, was to be running, and that's why I ran.
What was the response when you told your family I'm going to run for governor?
Well, I just have to say that there are 2 real heroes of this, maybe 3, 2.5 real heroes. The first is my wife Sarah, who is here with our daughter, who was born in the middle of the campaign, by the way. And you know, when I told Sarah that I think I want to do this, she never questioned it, not a second. She said, you know, she'd always just told me, she's like, yeah, someday I knew you were going to say this. I didn't realize you were going to come this early, but someday I knew we were going to have this conversation. And she said, let's do it. Look, if that's what you believe that we need to be doing right now, let's do it. And my family, my in-laws, with whom I actually lived, running for governor doesn't pay very well. So we moved in with my in-laws, and you can imagine sitting down with your in-laws and saying, hey, so I'm going to spend 18 months on the road all over the state of Michigan, asking other people for their money, not earning a dime, and by the way, Sarah's pregnant. Right? You can imagine how bad that conversation would go. But they never questioned once. They said, what's the maximum contribution we can make? And they wrote me those 2 checks, and they said, whatever you need, we're behind you. My parents, one of the beautiful things that I always am very thankful about my parents is that whenever I told them I wanted to do something, they never said you can't do that. Or maybe aim a little bit lower. They would just say, are you ready to do the work? If you're ready to do the work, then get out there and do it. And they were really supportive, so I'm really, really thankful for them now. A lot of the community more broadly were like, what are you doing? That's crazy. And much of the early opposition actually came from the Muslim community. Now, to their credit, they came on board, and they came on board in a big way. But it took them a moment to come on board. And it's a lesson I think we need to learn about our community. Sometimes we take our cues not from our beliefs and our ideals, but we take our cues from how other people are going to look at us. There was always the question like, well, Abdurrahman, if you run, like, you might reflect poorly on the community. And I was like, okay, but tell me whether or not you think we're being reflected so well in the current crop of elected leadership. as it stands. So.
Now, as far as when you decided to run, I think sometimes it's a mystery. People who might be interested in politics, do you just say, hey, I'm going to run for governor? I mean, isn't there a lot of work behind the scenes? And that can kind of be a turn-on at some point for people.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it's work worth doing. Anybody who's ever started an organization or built a business or decided to try something hard, it's really hard work. And there are moments where you're saying, this is never going to succeed, I'm never going to take off. And you do the work anyway. And Mariam, I have to say, you've had this incredible career as a journalist, which is not an area where we commonly find people with your name and who wear a hijab. What have been your barriers?
I've had none. I'm going to turn the question to you because you're doing a politician move and you're trying to say it back to me. As far as your moving forward, I did pose a question on social media. People want to know, will you run again? And they're ready and willing to get out the vote.
Inshallah. And the kind of inshallah that says, like, I actually intend to do this Sunday, but I also know I've got a 1-year-old at home, and there's a lot of work. And I think sometimes you can be a little bit impatient, and there's a question of, do you want to go faster, or do you want to go together further? And I think it behooves us to step back sometimes and ask, what does wisdom dictate me to do? And so I'm, weighing it. Zara and I talking about it, having conversations with folks, and thinking about what the right next step is. Inshallah, if there's an opportunity, and I feel like I can serve and do the job well, then maybe the guy's out of the room.
One or two final questions here. I think there is also a fear when people do want to run for office about the Islamophobic content that will come out. People are going to dig out your past, people are going to slam you. Is it worth risking your reputation for stuff that might not even be true?
They're going to do that. That's the nature of this work. And I want people to think about, we look up to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and think about all the things that they said and did to him. I mean, at the end of the day, truth bears out. And if you walk your path, attempting to bring to it the character and the dignity with which you want to lead, people see through your name and everything else. And we earned, thankfully, 340,000 votes. And those were votes from all over the state of Michigan. And there were people voting for somebody beyond a name, beyond a faith, but voting for somebody because they believed that this person had their best interest in life. I had a friend of mine, we didn't win our election, and a friend of mine from this community, actually, Shakib Alam, who's just been an incredible supporter for people running for office. And I told him afterwards, I said, I hope that you don't feel like this was a waste of your time and energy and a failure. He said, you gave me something I never thought I'd see before. He came to the rally we did with Bernie Sanders, and it was about 2,500 people. And he said, I watched 2,500 people who were predominantly non-Muslim chanting a Muslim name. I never thought I would ever see that. And my daughter, who's 10 years old, got to see that happen. And that fundamentally changes the way she thinks about what's possible. And that was more than worth it. And so the Islamophobia is real. You know you're going to get it. But at some point you say, what's the bigger picture, right? And what am I doing this for? And in the end, people see beyond it. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, I want to thank Dr. Abdul Sayed for his time and for being candid with us. We're going to hold you hostage a little while longer because we have some awards to hand out to our high school valedictorians. So I'd like to call the valedictorians up to the stage, but let's give one more round of applause for them. So I'd like to call to the stage Malak Yahya from Aqsa School in Ridgeview, Furqan Ali, CPSA Lombard, Zara Sayed, CPSA Lombard, Osborne, Universal School in Ridgeview. If our high school valedictorians are here, can you please come up and get your awards. Oh, okay. So we have the principal of Aqsa School here to accept on behalf of Halal. I'm sorry. Great New Universal Aqsa, isn't it all the same? Thank you again, Dr. Abdullah Sayed, and to the valedictorians for 2018. And now we would like to call Sheikh Hassan Ali back up to the stage for some final remarks.
Okay, so before we make the dua, inshallah, from the end, I would like to remind you again for one more time. With this one? This one's better? Okay. So I would like to remind you for one more time, inshallah, that if you didn't get a chance to fill the pledge form, please do not leave before pledging something, inshallah ta'ala, for the CIOGC. Do not leave tonight without, inshallah, pledging something for CIOGC to keep, inshallah, our great aspects, to serve the community and the society at large. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you and may Allah reward all of you. Let's pray, inshallah, let's make dua for the conclusion. We'll take this. Okay, so there's envelopes around you with volunteers, and if you didn't pray Isha yet, we'll have Jama'ah, inshallah, right after the program. So again, I would like to thank our great MC, Sister Maria, mashallah, please give her a hand.